Hello creatives, you're welcome to this video tutorial. This is David Gladness, and on this particular video I'm going to be explaining some things about the Pixellab. Well, the Pixellab is actually one of the best apps you can use when it comes to smartphone graphic designing, okay? And it is used for photo manipulations and other things as well. Now, I know some of you already know this. Actually, I do not want to assume that everyone already knows about Pixellab. Now, there are some functions on this app that a lot of people do not actually know, and in this particular video we are going to be exploring the Pixellab. I'm going to be showing you in a brief all you need to know about the app. Some functions you might not even know what it is there for. So we are going to be exploring it one by one. Though this video is going to be in form of a series. There is going to be an episode 2, and in that episode 2 and 3, 4 till as much as possible, okay? So we are going to be exploring more apps and more functions, but on this particular video I will just be explaining to you each of the functions, what they are used for and what they are meant for, okay? So in other episodes I will be explaining deep about how to use a particular thing on the Pixellab, but for this particular episode we are going to be exploring Pixellab, okay? So the first thing I'm going to be showing you here is that when you open your Pixellab, this is what we call the interface, the workspace, okay? The workspace interface, all right? And this is the default size, as you can see. Now, the Pixellab I'm currently using is not the original Pixellab that was generated. So if you need the Pixellab that is on the Play Store, just go to the video description box. You can download it. And if you need this particular Pixellab, go to the description box as well. There is a link that you can use to join my YouTube community, and you will gain access to this exact Pixellab I am using. All right, now when you open your Pixellab, the difference might just be a little bit different. Please note it is still the same, okay? Now let's start from the extreme beginning, okay? So this particular slide you're seeing right here, these are the default pages that can appear on your Pixellab, okay? These are the defaults. Normally you can edit them as a form of templates and use them for your own design project, okay? You can use them for your own design project. These are the defaults. But then we have what we call projects. Now under this project, if you are working, let's assume I was working on a design now. Then I want to, maybe after designing it, I would advise always save your work as a project in case, okay? Just in case you want to work on it later, or probably you were working on something and there was a typography error, and after sending it to your client, then your client was like, okay, I would like you to actually edit this thing. Even if it is your personal project, okay, I would like you to edit this thing. You can always save your design as a project. So let's click on this place. You are seeing my project. As you can see, we have some design projects right here. These are some of the design projects I have made. So if I want to edit them, I can easily go back to them and edit directly without stress. I can easily go back to them and edit directly without stress, okay? They are very easy and I can easily edit them without stress. Now let's take example, this particular thing you're seeing right here. As you can see, so let's assume I actually want to work on this. Maybe there is something I need to edit. I can easily go to the design layer and edit anything I feel like editing. I hope you get my point. So some designs I have made in the past are in the this thing. Take a look at this as well. Let's now assume the person I made this design from was now like, okay, please, I would like you to change this Victoria and I. The person now say, okay, I would like you to change it to something else. You know, it will not be easier for me to start all over, to start designing everything all over. Easily, I can now like edit it directly from wherever it is and make the necessary correction. This is what the project is used for. Now, under the project layer, we have what we call PLP. We have what we call PLP. Now, all these things you're seeing right here, you might not, even as a pro, you might not know what they are used for. PLP is the ability to be able to like send your design project to another Pixellab users, okay? PLP stands for Pixellab project, okay? PLP stands for Pixellab projects. PLP, Pixellab projects. That is what the word PLP stands for, okay? Now, I'm going to be showing you before the end of this video how you can actually use this particular thing, how you can use this particular PLP. So stay tuned to the end of the video. I'll show you how you can actually use the PLP properly. Like, I will explain more about it, but then I don't want it to waste our time in this particular video. Now we have this thing you're seeing right here. It's just the way you can arrange your project, okay? This is the alignment. It stands for alignment. Let's assume, look at it right here. Now, name it like this is how it is right now, the format, okay? The view format. So if I should select date ascending, that is, it's going to start from the date I started saving up. You can see that to the last project. And if I should select date descending, it's going to start from the recent design to the latest. You can see that it's going to be starting from the latest to the beginning. Okay, so when you are done, you can just tap on this. Okay, this is just like when you come to your project and you do not want to work or anything, you can easily tap on this particular thing right here, and it's going to take you back to your work interface. Okay, so let's go back to default. Now, I believe you now know what the project is. Don't forget, I'm going to be showing you on what this PLP you are seeing right here, what it is used for, and how you can actually make use of it. Now, we have the text interface. Okay, this place you are seeing AA. This place you are seeing right here. When you tap on it, there are two things you can actually get here. Let me delete this. When you tap on this place, okay, there are two things you can work with. Look at this place you are seeing plus. You can easily bring in a text, a new text, then edit it and input whatever text you want to input. Now, there are two ways you can actually edit, either by tapping on this edit or you double tap on this particular new text. Now, we have what we call, look at this thing you're seeing right here. You can delete it, you can click on it to delete, or you just clear it manually. Now, let's just say I want to input, okay, my name is Gladness, okay, Gladness. You can see that. Then I'll click on OK. So that is what the text is basically used for. And this is the delete icon. Let's say I do not like, I want to delete the text. I can easily tap on this. And all these things were being repeated. Look at it as well at the top left corner. I can easily tap on it and delete, and I can edit it. So when I tap on this icon, this pencil-like icon you are seeing right here, all these things you are seeing here too, they are going to appear. Okay, when I tap on it, look at them. We have the copy. This is the copy, and the copy is also here to duplicate. We have the move to front. We have, look at it, to front, to back, and so on. We have to front, we have to back. We have the position to position. We have the relative position. This one is the difference between the relative position, which is, this one is by moving it manually. You can increase or reduce the speed. Okay, you can increase or reduce the speed the way you want it to move. And we have the relative position. The relative position moves it like it jumps. Okay, it jumps the way you want it to be. You can move it to the middle or the way you just, whatever you want it to be. You can see that you cannot be moving it little by little. Okay, we have the size where you can easily increase or reduce the size. And you can also use this thing you are seeing right here, this icon you are seeing right here that turns blue. You can use it to move or increase as well. Then we have the rotation. Okay, we have the padding. Now this padding works in, okay, I'm going to be explaining what padding works for. We have the color. Let's assume I want to change the color to another color, like a yellow color, a black color, whatever color you feel like using. We have the color as well. Okay, we also have the color. Now, this color part is not until is not like a must for you to change all the color. Let's say I just want to change the color for this Gladness. All I need to do is to edit this, like edit it, and it's going to size in for only that Gladness. And I'm going to change, you will see, it's only the color for the Gladness that is changing. The rest is not changing. I hope you get that. The rest is not changing. I can easily edit only the color, or if I want to make the name and the Gladness, or only the M, anything you want to change. But then if you want everything to be covered, you just change everything at once. So I believe you now know how to work with color. Now we have two types of color. We have the ordinary color that is going to be the same thing, and we have the gradient color. Now on the gradient color, when you click on gradient, you can easily select multicolor together on a text. Easily select multicolor. Okay, so let's tap on plus and let's form a color real quick. So let's say we want to use maybe let's say we want to use a red color here. Let's say we want to use a red color here. Okay, let's just say we want to use a red color. Okay, in the other episode I will be showing how to use gradient as well. Okay, and let's say this particular color we want it to be another color, maybe let's say a lighter shade of red instead. A lighter shade of red is going to be brighter. Okay, and then click on this and let's move it like this to be closer to each other. All right, then we'll click on OK. Now you can see it's having two different colors. You can see that the text is having two different colors. So that is what you can use the gradient color for. And we have the texture as well. The texture is used in, maybe you want to bring in a particular, let's say we want to use a good text effect. Okay, after bringing in your text, let's change this font. Okay, we can also change the font. Okay, we can change the font by tapping on this place you are seeing AB font. You are seeing right here. When you click on AB font, it's going to take you to your fonts, and then you're going to be able to select the font you actually want to use. You can easily select the font you want to use, or if you have a font installed, I already have a video on how you can install more fonts to your Pixellab. Okay, so you can check out the video on my channel, okay, on how you can install more fonts to add more fonts to your Pixellab, because the Pixellab have a limited font. You can see now I've changed this font. Now let's just assume I want to use okay, let's say I want to use a texture for this particular text. All I need to do is to click on this place you're seeing texture, then I'll click on this image. Now I can now locate from my gallery. Maybe I downloaded a gold text effect, like a gold palette to add to a texture. It could be anything, okay? So let me check if I have a gold. Let me see if I have a gold effect that I can use. Then I'll just search for, let's say maybe, let me search for gold. I don't know if I have any gold effects, a gold template or something on in my gallery. Alright, so let's make use of this particular gold palette you are seeing right here. Now, as you can see, my text is now appearing like a gold effect. You can see that, right? It's now appearing gold. So that is what you can use the texture effect for. Now we have the opacity. The opacity actually deals with the transparency of your work. First, let me change the background. Let me change the background to like a white color so that you will see what I'm doing properly. Okay, so opacity deals with let me delete the texture. We don't need the texture again. Opacity deals with the what is it called? It deals with the transparency of any element. It deals with the transparency of your elements. You can see that how transparent you want it to be. So that is what opacity works for. Now you can see there is something like affect shadow here. If I am using a shadow and I enable this thing, if I'm reducing the opacity, the shadow will not be affected. But if I enable it, that means the shadow as well will follow up with the opacity. When we get to shadow, I will come back to the opacity. Okay, so we have talked about this, we have talked about the texture, we have talked about opacity, and we have the rotating. Okay, look at this button you are seeing right here. You can easily use it to rotate manually, but if you want it to be automatically, you can just come to this rotate and move it like this, or the way you want it to be. You can easily work with the angle of the rotation, or you just make use of this to rotate. It's very, very simple. It's still the same thing. So when you are done, you just need to tap on this to highlight it or reset it or cancel. Okay, so we also have the max. This max 2 actually has a lot to do, so I'm going to create a separate video to explain better. But then in a brief, max actually works like eraser. The max 2 is used to erase. Okay, it is used to erase. As I have said, it's like an erasing, like a erasing tool. You can easily use it to max out or max in whatever you want. Okay, you can see it erase the part I want, and I can click on out. That is, I want to erase the outer part. So, and on how you can use this max 2 properly, I will be explaining in another episode video. Okay, to explain better how you can use the max 2 like a pro. All right. So we also have okay, I have explained how you can use the AB fonts to change your fonts. Okay, and we have the B style. The B style is actually how bold. Either you want it to be bold, you want it to be underlined, you want it to be italic. Okay, this is italic, this is underlined, this is bold. And if you don't want any effect, you can easily tap on this to remove the effect. Okay, bold or not bold, you can see that, right? So that is what this works for. Now, just like I explained on the color, if you do not want the rest to be, let's say I want to underline this, only this, I want any effect I want to use to be on this gladness, all I need to do is to select only the gladness. You can see that. All I need to do is to select only the gladness. Now, I left something the other time. You can see that this part of the S was being cropped out. This part of the S was being cropped out. Now, it happens that way in some cases, okay? It happens that way in some cases. Sometimes depends on the font you are using. Now, let me tap on the font. You know, I excluded this padding the other time and I said I'll come back to it later. Now, padding can be used to solve this kind of problem. Either you edit your text, give it a space. You give it a space, and do the same thing by this part as well. That is how you can solve the problem. Okay, you can see that there is now enough space that makes the S visible. But then in some cases, instead, I don't even use space. But before I got to know what padding works for, I always use spacing. Okay, now you can use the padding. Just go to your padding right here, click on it, and you can easily increase the right spacing and the left padding. You can see that instead of it affecting your work, you can easily increase it. Let's say I increase this to 9. This as well can be on 9. You can see that. Then I'll tap on plus and you can see the text is now fully visible. So that is what the padding is used for. So let's go to the next one, which is the curve. Okay, the curve, as the name entails, is how you want it to be bent. You can see that. That is what the curve works for. This is what the curve works for on the Pixellab. You can see that this is really beautiful. Okay, so that is what the curve works for. And then we have the background. Okay, now the background works for, if I enable it now, you can see that it's having a background. It's having a background. So if I want it to be in form of a gradient, I can easily select a gradient color. But then since my, okay, let me just change the color real quick. Let me change the color real quick. Okay, let me change this to, like, let's say green. And then let's change this one to like white. Let's say blue. And then I position it this way. Now you can see what the background works for. So that is what the background as well works for. And you can also increase the padding. And you can see that, right? We also have the top padding and we have the down padding. So that is what you can actually use this for. I believe you now understand how to go about that. So I'll just cancel this. Now we also have the alignment. Now this is what the alignment works for. Now this particular form by which your text is appearing is the the left hand side alignment. This is it right here. Click on align. If you want it to be the middle alignment, it will be this way. Everything will be at the middle. And if you want it to be the right hand side alignment, everything is going to start from the right hand side. Okay, so we also have the spacing. We have the spacing. Now we have the letter spacing and we have the word spacing. If I want the letter spacing, that means it's going to give gap in between my text. You can see that it's going to give gap. Let me reduce the size of the text. It's going to give gap in between my text. You can see that, right? There is enough gap between M and Y. And if I want it to be a word spacing, I'll just click on this word and I'll give it spacing. So it's not going to deal with it's not going to be dealing with the letter. It's going to be dealing with the word, each word. My name is, you can see that it's giving enough space. But if it is the letter spacing, it will be giving enough space in between each letter, each alphabet. Okay, so that is what the word and letter spacing works. And we also have the line spacing. Look at the line spacing. It gives gap in between each line. It gives enough spacing. Or you can reduce or increase it. I hope you now understand how it works. Now we have the stroke as well. Stroke is used to add an outline to each of your elements. Okay, so let's click on stroke, enable the stroke. You can see that I can use a yellow stroke, I can use a black stroke, I can use any type of stroke, I can even use a gradient stroke. So that is what you can reduce or increase the stroke width. I hope you get that. So that is what the stroke basically works for. Okay, that is what the stroke works for. All right, and then we have the next thing, which is the shadow. Now we have two types of shadow. Actually, let me deactivate this. We have two types of shadow. We have the inner shadow and we also have the normal shadow. Okay, the outer shadow. All right, so let me increase the size and let me show you what the shadow works for. So let's select the shadow color from here. Obviously, this is the shadow opacity, how transparent you want, just like I've explained earlier, how transparent you want your shadow to be. So I'm going to make use of, okay, let's just make use of 100. Now we have the blur radius, how blur you want your shadow to be. Okay, and now we have the shadow direction. We have outer glow as well. The outer glow deals with how glowing, you can see that, right? How glow you want your shadow to be. So we also have the shadow direction. Okay, this offset X and Y, they deal with the shadow direction. Offset X deals with the left or the right hand side direction, and this one deals with the down or upper side. Look at it. If I want my shadow to go up and if I want it to come down, if I want it to go left or I want it to go right. So that is how these are the shadow directions. I hope you now understand. Now I was explaining something the other time during opacity, that if you are reducing your opacity, you can see that the opacity is not affecting the shadow. But if I want it to affect the shadow, I'll just enable this and then I'll be able to reduce the both together. I hope you understand now. So that is how you can work with that. So let's go back to this and remove the shadow. Now we have the inner shadow. But before then, let me just delete this text and work with the other text. Let's work with this particular text. You know, it is a white color, so we are not going to be seeing it. I'm just going to change it to another color that is going to be visible. Okay, so let's change the font. Let's quickly change the font. All right, now as you can see right here, we have our text available. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is to go to inner shadow. I want to show you what the inner shadow works for. So I will just click on enable. Now the inner shadow, unlike the normal shadow that it appears on the outer part. Inner shadow appear inside the element. Inner shadow appear inside the element. The normal shadow appear outside the element. Okay, so I will enable, let's say I want to use a white color since my text is actually, or better still, let's say yes, let me just use white. And now we have the offset. You can see that it's appearing inside this thing, inside the text. Okay, so you can see that it is appearing inside the text. So you can also increase the blur radius or reduce the blur radius. You can increase or reduce the blur radius. Now, how do you reduce the opacity? You know, on the normal shadow, there is a way you can reduce opacity, right? I explained that earlier by clicking on this, enable your shadow, and you can work on your blur radius the way you want it to be. Let's say you want to use 1, and the offset X should now be on maybe -2, and this one on. Now, you can see that we can easily reduce our opacity from here. When it comes to inner shadow, you cannot reduce your opacity from outside. How do you reduce it? By tapping on plus. Now this is the opacity of this thing you are using. This deals with the transparency of the color you are using. This deals with the shade, how dark or bright you want the shade to be, and this is the lightning. It deals with the lightning. If you want it to be maybe a little bit lighter, you understand. So that is how you work with it. So this is where the shadow opacity is. This is where you can reduce the transparency, then click on OK. You can see that it has reduced. It has reduced, right? I can reduce it more. You can see that it has reduced even more. So that is how you go about that. Now we have the emboss effect. Okay, we have the emboss effect, and this is what the emboss effect works for. It gives it a kind of okay, let me reduce this. It gives it a kind of vibe, emboss vibe. Okay, like 3D effect. It gives it a form of 3D effect, but then it's used to get distorted. I have a video already on my channel on how you can solve this problem whenever you are using the emboss effect. Okay, there is a way you can actually solve it. As you can see, it was breaking the other time. So when it is breaking that way, there is actually a way you can solve that problem. So check through my videos on my YouTube. There is a way you can solve the problem. So I already have a video on that, so we'll not be spending much time. We have the light angle. You can see that we have the light angle. It's giving it a kind of 3D vibe. Okay, we have the light angle, we have the intensity, how we want it to be. Okay, this is the light angle. You can see that, right? It's giving it a kind of vibe, a 3D vibe. We have the ambient. You can just check through. So these are the things they are used to beautify your text and give them more effect, like a 3D effect. You can see how beautiful this is appearing. You can see that, right? So that is what the emboss effect works for. And then we have this perspective. Now this perspective is used to adjust. Okay, let's enable this, and let's say we want to give it this kind of vibe. We want it to be as if it is appearing on the ground, as if it is appearing on the floor. You can use this perspective to do that. You can see that, right? So that is basically what the perspective works for. This is what the perspective works for. So you use it to like adjust your text, give it the type of vibe you want it to have. Okay, you give it the type of vibe you want it to have. I hope you now understand how this works. Now, aside the perspective as well, we also have other functions such as the 3D rotates. Okay, if we should rotate this, you can see that we have the 3D rotation, we have the y-axis. You can see that, right? We have the y-axis, we have the x-axis as well. So that is going to be in a 3D form. It's going to be in a 3D form. Let me remove this perspective for you to see what I'm explaining properly. Okay, I've removed the perspective, and now we are working with 3D rotate. You can see that this is what the 3D rotate works for. You see that, right? You can see the differences. So this is what the 3D rotate works for. It rotates it in a 3D form. You can see that, right? It rotates it in a 3D format. It rotates it in a 3D format. So that is what the 3D rotate works for. Then we have the 3D text. It's also like emboss, but then it's a little bit different. Look at the kind of effect it's giving it. We have the oblique, and we have the perspective. The oblique and the perspective, and we also have the depth. This is where you control how deep that effect is, right? This is where you control it. And then we have the colors as well. You can select auto, that is going to be having the same color. But if you want to select another color, that is the depth, that depth is going to be having a different color. You can see that it's going to be having a different color. But when you are selecting auto, it will be having the same color that is on the text, and you can also select a gradient. So I will not be explaining more again, since you understand how gradients work now. So we'll just make use of auto. This is for the depth. And we have the rotation of the depth, like how you want your text to be rotated, just like the y-axis and the x-axis. I hope you understand. Then we have the stimulate lightning. You can see that the lightning effect that is appearing on that particular emboss effect. So when you enable it, you can now work with the light angle, where you want the lights to appear. and also the shadows and so on. I hope you can see that. So we have the hardness, how you want that thing to appear. You can see that. So that is what the 3D effect works for. And we also have the, let me remove this, and let me also, we have the reflection. Let me remove this as well. We have the reflection. Now this is used for reflections, your text reflections or your element reflection. You can see that. So you can give it an offset or just work with the offset. It's very simple. So to make it reflect on the floor and make it more realistic. Okay, so that is what the reflection works for. So that is all about this particular episode. Please do well to check the second episode, because I do not want this video to be too long and we have already spent enough time on this particular episode. So check the next episode and I am going to continue from there. Thank you for sticking around to the end of this video tutorial. Please do well to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you on the next episode.